My friend, lean in and hear this. What I am about to speak over you is no accident. In this very moment of your life, God is arranging a fresh beginning for you. You may have walked through valleys of deep sorrow. You may have carried loads so heavy your soul felt it might shatter under the strain. You may have endured nights where silence roared louder than any storm. Yet God has not abandoned you. The very God who placed the stars across the heavens, the same God who split seas and leveled mountains, is about to act in your story. And when God acts, no power in heaven or on earth can overturn what He has declared. There comes a moment when yesterday can no longer hold you captive. There comes a moment when the failures, the regrets, the shattered pieces, and the tears of yesterday lose their grip on who you are. God is not a God of dead end. He is the God of new doors, new paths, new mercies. The pain you endured was not in vain, for it has shaped you, prepared you, and brought you to this very hour where God Himself whispers, I am making all things new. You are not standing at the end. You are standing at the beginning of something you cannot yet see, but will soon testify about. Do not let despair fool you into believing that God has abandoned you. Sometimes the silence of God is not rejection, it is preparation. Sometimes when He closes a door, it is because He is building a gate you never imagined could be open. And while you think you are waiting on God, the truth is God is waiting on you. He is waiting for you to lift your eyes from the ashes of the past and fix them on the horizon of His promise. He is waiting for you to stop rehearsing your pain and start declaring His power. For God's promise is not tied to your past mistakes. It is anchored in His eternal will. How many times have you thought it was over? How many times did you tell yourself that this was the end of the road? Yet here you are, still breathing, still standing, still fighting. And that is not chance. That is God. Every breath in your lungs is evidence that He is not finished with you yet. If He was done with you, you wouldn't be alive. But because you are alive, it means your story has not reached its conclusion. The author of your life is about to write a chapter that will make sense of the suffering, that will redeem the wasted years, that will turn the midnight tears into a sunrise of joy. You must understand this truth. God specializes in beginnings that are born from endings. He brings light out of darkness, hope out of despair, life out of death. He takes the broken and makes them whole. He takes the rejected and calls them chosen. He takes the forgotten and crowns them with favor. Do not measure your future by the failures of your past. God does not consult your past to decide your tomorrow. When He declares a new beginning, nothing, absolutely nothing, can stop it. Not people, not circumstances, not even your own mistakes, because God's mercy rewrites the script. And yes, there will be those who doubt it. There will be voices that whisper, "You cannot change. You cannot rise. You cannot begin again." But those voices are lies born of fear and limitation. For when God decrees a new season, you do not need the approval of people. You do not need their validation. You do not need their applause. You only need the power of God. He will carry you. He will open the way. He will provide strength when yours has run dry. He will set before you opportunities that no man can shut. Some of you are carrying scars so deep that you believe they disqualify you. But let me tell you, your scars are not evidence of defeat. They are evidence of survival. They testify that you went through the fire, but the fire did not consume you. You went through the storm, but the storm did not drown you. And if God brought you through that, then surely He can carry you into a new tomorrow. The same hand that preserved you is the hand that will promote you. The same voice that calmed your storms is the voice that now calls you forward. God is about to breathe the new life into places you thought were dead. He is about to restore dreams you buried in the graveyard of disappointment. He is about to turn mourning into dancing, ashes into beauty, despair into hope. This is not just a motivational saying. This is the reality of God's power. His promise is not fragile. His word does not return void. When he says, "Behold, I am doing a new thing," then rest assured, he will do it. Even if you cannot see it yet, trust that it is already unfolding. Seeds grow in silence before they break through the soil. God is working in the unseen before he manifests in the visible. You see, life is not about what you have lost. It is about what God is preparing to give. Sometimes he removes to replace. Sometimes he tears down to build stronger. Sometimes he allows endings to usher in beginnings. Stop holding on to what he has already released. Stop clinging to the doors he has shut. The longer you mourn what is gone, the longer you delay what is coming. God cannot fill hands that are already clenched around yesterday. Open your heart, open your spirit, and let God place in you the new beginning he has prepared. And yes, new beginnings require courage. You cannot step into tomorrow while your feet are still chained to yesterday. You must be willing to walk by faith, to take steps when you do not see the full staircase, to trust that if God said go, he has already gone before you to prepare the way. Faith is not waiting until everything makes. It is trusting God when nothing makes sense. And I tell you, there is no safer place to be than in the will of God. Even when it leads you into uncharted waters, this new beginning, it's not just about changing your circumstances. It is about transforming your heart. God does not simply want to adjust your surroundings. He wants to renew your mind, strengthen your spirit, ignite your faith. For what good is a new opportunity if your heart is still chained to fear? What good is a new season if your spirit is still haunted by doubt? God's new beginning starts on the inside. It begins when you dare to believe that he is greater than your struggle, stronger than your enemy, higher than your mountain. When you believe this, you are unstoppable because you are no longer walking in your own strength. You are walking in his. My friend, when God prepares a new beginning, it is not something small, ordinary, or shallow. It is not a minor adjustment to your circumstances. It is a divine reset of your destiny. God does not patch up broken pieces with weak glue. He makes all things new. He does not simply cover your past with a thin veil. He transforms your future with his mighty hand. That is why you cannot measure what God is about to do by what you see around you right now. You cannot define tomorrow by today's pain. God is greater than your present struggles, and his new beginning for you carries weight, authority, and eternal purpose. So many people miss the beauty of God's new beginning because they keep their eyes fixed on what they have lost instead of what God is preparing to give. But hear me clearly, your loss is not the end. Your loss may have been painful. It may have shaken you. It may have left scars, but your loss is also the soil from which God will grow something more glorious than you can imagine. God does not waste pain. He does not overlook tears. Every sleepless night, every silent cry, every heavy burden has been seen by God, and he has stored it as seed for the harvest that is now on its way. The harvest is always greater than the seed. What you sow in tears, you will reap in joy. God is about to bring you into a season where the weight of the past will no longer hold power over you. The guilt that tried to define you will lose its voice. The shame that changed your spirit will fall powerless at your feet. The fear that whispered lies into your mind will be silenced by the truth of God's word. For when God declares a new beginning, he also declares a new identity. You are not who you were yesterday. You are not what they said about you. You are not the mistakes you made. You are who God says you are. And his declaration outweighs every other opinion, every other judgment, every other label. But let me remind you, God's new beginning will demand your trust. It will not always look like what you expected. Sometimes the new beginning feels like an ending because it requires leaving behind comfort zones and familiar places. Think of it. God cannot take you into the land of promise if you insist on clinging to Egypt. He cannot show you the horizon of tomorrow if you keep staring at the ruins of yesterday. Trust is the bridge between where you are and where God is leading you. You must be willing to step into the unknown with faith, knowing that even if you cannot see the path, God is the one guiding your steps. When God says, "Behold, I am doing a new thing," it means he is preparing to surprise you. It means he is about to overturn the assumptions of people who thought they knew your story. It means he is about to set you apart in such a way that even your enemies will be forced to acknowledge the hand of God on your life. Do not limit God by your imagination. Do not reduce his promise to the size of your comfort. He is not a God of small measures. He is a God of abundance, a God of overflow, a God of greatness. When he opens the heavens, he pours out blessings that there is not even room enough to contain. You must also understand that God's new beginning is not always immediate in appearance. Sometimes it begins in silence. Sometimes it begins with small steps. Sometimes it begins beneath the surface where no one can see. But just because you cannot see it does not mean it is not happening. A seed buried in the soil is hidden, unseen and silent, but it is alive. Growth is taking place in the unseen. Roots are forming. Strength is being built. Life is stirring. Then suddenly, when the appointed time arrives, the seed breaks forth through the ground for all to see. That is what God is doing in your life. Do not despise the hidden season. Do not despise the waiting season. For the longer the roots grow, the stronger the tree will stand. There is another truth. When God gives you a new beginning, it is not only for your sake, it is for his glory. Your testimony is not just a story about survival. It is a declaration of God's power. When he lifts you, it will not be so people can applaud you, but so they can see his greatness reflected in your life. That is why your new beginning will be undeniable. It will not be something that you can attribute to chance or luck or human effort. No, it will be so magnificent, so breathtaking, so miraculous that you will be able to say with conviction, "This was God's doing." And let me tell you, when God begins to move, there is no force strong enough to stop him. No power in the heavens, no scheme on earth, no opposition from people can hinder what he has decreed. The only thing that can dead's work in your life is your unwillingness to believe. Doubt is the enemy of destiny. Fear is the thief of future. But faith unlocks the gates of God's promise. Even the smallest faith, if anchored in God, can shift mountains out of your path. You do not need to know how it will happen. You only need to know who is making it happen. Your future is not in the hands of your enemies. Your destiny is not determined by those who rejected you. Your new beginning is not dependent on the people who left you, the job you lost, or the opportunity that slipped away. Your future rests solely in the hands of God, and those hands are mighty, faithful, and unshakable. If he could bring light out of darkness, If he could bring order out of chaos, if he could bring life out of nothing, then surely he can bring a new beginning out of your situation. When God marks the beginning of a new season in your life, it is not to return you to where you once were. It is to elevate you beyond what you could have achieved by your own strength. A true new beginning from God does not simply restore what was lost. It multiplies, it magnifies, it enlarges. God never takes you backward. He always moves you forward. Even when it seems like you've been stripped of everything, even when you feel empty and broken, and know that the emptiness is only making room for the abundance He is preparing to pour into your life. When your hands are empty, they are finally free to receive. This is why you cannot fear endings. Endings are painful, yes, but they are also necessary. A seed must first die in the ground before it can spring forth into new life. So too, some chapters of your life must close before the next can be opened. And although endings bring sorrow, they are also God's way of clearing space for the new. The door that shut was not rejection, it was protection. The path that was blocked was not punishment, it was redirection. What you call loss, God calls preparation. He is moving you away from what cannot carry you in the destiny He has prepared. God's new beginning is not random. It is deliberate. He does not act without purpose. Every step, every turn, every acceleration, it all flows from His divine plan. He sees the road ahead when all you see is the dust of the present. He knows what dangers lie in paths you thought were best for you. He knows what blessings are hidden in directions you never considered. And when He orchestrates a new beginning, it is always for your good. Even if it looks uncertain, even if it feels uncomfortable, even if it challenges you to let go of everything you know, trust that God is weaving together a story greater than you could ever write for yourself. But understand this: God's new beginning is not about comfort. It is about transformation. He does not lead you into a new season so you can stay the same. He calls you forward so that you may rise higher, walk stronger, life deeper in faith. He wants to break chains of fear that once held you back. He wants to strip away the doubts that clouded your vision. He wants to replace weakness with strength, despair with hope, and sorrow with joy. God's new beginning is not a small adjustment. It is a revolution in your life. It is a shift so powerful that you cannot remain who you once were. And do not be surprised if this new beginning demands separation. There are people, habits, and patterns that cannot follow you where God is leading. Not everyone who started with you can go with you. Not every friendship is meant for the next chapter. Not every environment is designed for your growth. God in His wisdom removes what would hinder your destiny, even if it hurts to let go. Do not cling to what He is pruning away. If He is taking it out of your life, it is because it cannot survive the light of your new season. Trust Him even in the losses, because they are not losses. They are divine exchanges. When God opens a new door, you will know it is Him, because it will bear the mark of peace. Not the absence of trials, not the absence of challenges, but the presence of His undeniable hand upon it. You will feel His strength lifting you, His wisdom guiding you, His favor surrounding you. What seemed impossible will become attainable. Seemed distant will come within reach. What was once locked will open with ease. Not because of your effort, but because of His authority. Remember, God says, "Yeah." No force can say no. Let me speak directly to your heart. Some of you have been walking in circles, stuck in cycles of disappointment, chained to the memories of past failures. You have been asking, when will it change? When will it be different? Hear me now. The cycle ends when you surrender fully to God's will. Your new beginning is not unlocked by striving, it is unlocked by trusting. It is not about forcing doors open, it is about allowing God to lead you to the door. He has already prepared. Stop exhausting yourself trying to fix what only God can restore. Stop carrying burdens that were never meant for your shoulders. Lay it all down and let God lift you into the season He has appointed for you. And when He does, your life will not only change, it will shine. God does not give you a new beginning for you to hide it. He gives it so your life becomes a testimony, a living example of His goodness, His mercy, His power. People who once doubted you will see what God has done. Those who mocked you in your valley will watch as He sets your feet on a mountain. Those who thought it was over for you will witness the glory of God rising from your life, not so they can exalt you, but so they can recognize the greatness of the one who lifted you. Never forget your new beginning is proof that God is faithful. Even when you failed, He remained steadfast. Even when you doubted, He remained sure. Even when you turned away, He remained near. That is why this new season is not something you earn. It is something you receive. God's mercy writes over your mistakes. His compassion covers your shortcomings. His power redeems your wasted years. He takes what you believe was lost beyond repair and breathes new life into it again. When God prepares to usher you into a new beginning, He does not speak it quietly into the shadows of your world. He announces it with authority. He sends a divine tremor that shakes loose the chains of your past and bursts open the gates of your future. And when God makes a declaration, all of creation moves at His command. The winds shift, the seas divide, the mountains bow, and the valleys rise to meet His word. So tell me, why would you doubt that He can renew your story? Why believe that your past mistakes, your quiet fears, or the giants that stand before you are too strong for His hand? If He rules the cosmos, surely He can speak a fresh beginning into your life. The truth is, God's new beginning for your life is often disguised as disruption. It doesn't always appear gentle or calm at first. It shakes what must be shaken. It uproots what cannot remain. It unsettles what has grown stagnant. Because God is not interested in you building a future on a cracked foundation. He will tear down what is unstable so He can rebuild you on a rock that cannot be moved. So when everything around you feels like it is collapsing, do not assume it is destruction. It may very well be the hand of God clearing the ground for something stronger, purer, greater than what stood before. Do not forget, God has always been a God of beginnings. From the very dawn of time, He spoke into the chaos and birthed order. He looked at emptiness and filled it with light. He looked at formlessness and shaped it with beauty. That same God has not changed. He looks at the chaos in your life and speaks order. He looks at the void in your heart and fills it with His presence. He looks at the broken pieces of your past and crafts them into something glorious. This is who God is. The one who creates something out of nothing, who brings life out of what seems hopeless. But to walk into a new beginning, you must let go of the illusion that you control everything. Too many people miss the move of God because they refuse to release their grip on the old. They try to drag yesterday into tomorrow. But God says, release it. You cannot carry old baggage into a new season. You cannot drag broken relationships, toxic habits, bitter attitudes, and heavy regrets into the fresh work God is trying to do. He calls you to lay it down, to trust Him, to walk forward unburdened. And yes, it is hard to let go. Yes, it is painful to surrender. But what you release into God's hands, He transforms into something far greater than what you cling to. God's new beginning is not fragile, it is unstoppable. It is not dependent on human approval or worldly systems. When He decides to lift you, there is no authority high enough to block it. When He decides to heal you, no sickness is strong enough to resist it. When He decides to bless you, no curse, no opposition, no enemy can withhold it. For God does not negotiate with creation. He commands it, and His command is final. That is why you can walk into your new beginning with boldness, not trembling, not because of who you are, but because of who God is. And yet, God will test your faith as He ushers you into this new chapter. Do not be surprised if the path forward looks narrow, if it feels like the ground beneath you is unfamiliar, for faith is not proven in comfort, it is proven in trust. God will call you to step even when you cannot see the full way. He will call you to believe even when the evidence around you says otherwise. He will call you to declare His promise even when your reality has not yet caught up. This is how you partner with God's new beginning, not by sight but by faith. And those who walk by faith see doors open that the world swore were forever locked. Your new beginning may come with resistance. The enemy does not rejoice when God elevates you. There will be whispers of doubt. There will be obstacles. There will be distractions designed to pull you back into the old. But remember this, the presence of resistance is often proof that breakthrough is near. You don't fight battles over empty ground. You fight battles over valuable territory. The struggle you feel right now is not because God has abandoned you. It is because the enemy knows God is about to establish you. Stand firm. Do not retreat. For the God who begins a new work in you will also defend it. And never underestimate the timing of God. What feels delayed to you is right on schedule with Him. He is not bound by your deadlines, and He is not late. He is deliberate, intentional, precise. He waits until the moment that will bring the greatest glory to His name and the greatest strength to your spirit. While you think nothing is happening, He is aligning pieces you cannot see, preparing hearts you do not know, orchestrating circumstances you cannot control. And when the fullness of time arrives, what seemed impossible will unfold effortlessly before your eyes. When God speaks a new beginning into your life, it does not come with a whisper of uncertainty. It comes with the thunder of divine authority. His word does not tremble. It stands firm and unshakable. When God says, I am making all things new, there is no force on earth or in the heavens that can reverse His decree. And this is why your heart must rise with confidence, not in your own strength, but in the certainty that the Almighty is at work. The same God who called light out of the darkness is calling you out of despair, out of limitation, out of fear, into a dawn that no night can overcome. But do not miss this truth. God's new beginning is not just about change on the outside. It is about transformation on the inside. Many people want God to change their circumstances while they remain unchanged within. Yet the true new beginning starts in the heart. God is not merely rearranging the furniture of your life. He is building a brand new foundation. He is reshaping your character, refining your faith, deepening your trust. Because unless the heart is renewed, any new season will eventually collapse under the weight of old patterns. So allow Him not only to open new doors, but also to renew your spirit, so that you may walk through them with wisdom. There are moments when God's new beginning feels like wilderness. You may not see the full picture. You may only see a step ahead. But remember, God is not calling you to see everything. He is calling you to trust Him in everything. The wilderness is not abandonment. It is preparation. In the wilderness, you learn to depend not on your own strength, but on His provision. In the wilderness, you discover that when all else is stripped away, God is enough. And once you learn this truth, no challenge, no storm, no enemy can shake you, because you know that if God sustained you in lack, He will sustain you in abundance. Your new beginning may also require patience. God's timing is often different from ours. We want everything now, immediately, without delay. But God is never rushed, and He is never late. He is precise, deliberate, perfect in His timing. What seems like delay is often the hand of God preparing the ground, aligning the people, and setting the stage for your breakthrough. Just as a tree does not bear fruit in its first season of planting, so too your life must endure seasons of quiet growth before the visible harvest comes. Do not mistake silence for inactivity. God works in hidden places long before He reveals His work in public view. Do not think that your failures disqualify you from God's new beginning. If that were true, none of us would ever rise again. God is not limited by your past. He redeems it. He takes the very mistakes you thought ruined you and turns them into stepping stones for your future. What others meant for harm, God will use for good. What seemed like a setback will be revealed as a setup. Do not let shame bind you to yesterday. God's mercy is greater than your mistakes, and His power is stronger than your regrets. If He has declared a new season over your life, then your past cannot dictate your tomorrow. When God opens a new beginning, He does so with purpose. He does not elevate you so you can boast in yourself. He lifts you so you can reflect His glory. Your new season is meant to be a testimony to others that if God could do it for you, He can do it for them. Do not hide what He has done. Declare it boldly. Let your life be a living sermon, a beacon of hope for those still trapped in their own midnight hour. For when God blesses you, it is never just about you. It is about the countless lives your story will inspire. But here is what you must understand. New beginnings demand new faith. You cannot enter tomorrow with yesterday's level of trust. You must grow. You must stretch. You must dare to believe God for more than you have ever asked before. Faith, if not active, it is active. It is unrelenting. It refuses to let fear dictate the narrative. It stands firm even when the ground shakes. It proclaims God's promise even before the evidence arrives. And when you walk with such faith, you align yourself with the very power that spoke the universe into being. There will be opposition. There will be voices that mock your hope, that tell you nothing can change, that remind you of all the times you failed. But let those voices be silenced by the truth of God's Word. For if God has spoken, that is all that matters. People may doubt, enemies may resist, even your own heart may waver. But God remains faithful. He has never broken His word, and He never will. Hold on to His promise as tightly as you hold on to your breath. For His word is life itself. And when the new beginning comes, and it will come, you will look back and understand why the delays were necessary, why the struggles were permitted, why the losses had to happen. You will see that every tear watered the soil of your testimony. You will see that every disappointment shaped your endurance. You will see that every detour was actually a straight line in God's greater plan. And you will lift your hands not in pride, but in knowing that only God could have written such a story. When God sets His hand upon your life for a new beginning, it is never a half measure. It is not a temporary patch or a fleeting glimpse of hope. It is a complete shift, a transformation that alters the very trajectory of your existence. God does not bring you out just to leave you wandering. He brings you out to establish you, to plant you, to crown you with a future that reflects His greatness. What God begins, He sustains. What He opens, He protects. What He promises, He fulfills. And when He calls you into a new season, it is not to tease your heart, but to fulfill His word. You must understand a new beginning with God is not an escape. It is an elevation. He does not pull you out of a pit so you can return to the same valley. He raises you so that you can stand on higher ground. And from that higher ground, you see what you could not see before. From that new height, the obstacles that once intimidated you become small in comparison to His power. This is why your perspective must shift. Your eyes must be trained not on the dust of the ground, but on the horizon of His promise. For as high as the heavens are above the earth, so are God's thoughts above yours, and so are His ways beyond your ways. But do not forget, God's new beginning often requires the surrender of the old. You cannot enter into tomorrow still carrying yesterday's chains. You cannot embrace what God is placing in your hands if your fists are clenched around what He is trying to remove. Some of you are holding on to bitterness, replaying old wounds, rehearsing old betrayals, and yet asking God for something new. Let me tell you, with love and boldness, you cannot walk into your new season carrying the poison of the past. Release it. Place it into God's hand. Trust Him enough to let go so that He can replace your sorrow with joy, your bitterness with peace, your despair with hope. God's new beginning also comes with fresh responsibility. With every blessing comes stewardship. With every door He opens comes a call to walk in faithfulness. You cannot treat His gift lightly. He is not giving you a new chapter so you can live in the same old patterns. He is lifting you so that your life can be a reflection of His holiness, His strength, His mercy. To whom much is given, much is required. And when God entrusts you with a new beginning, He calls you to walk with integrity, to live with humility, to shine with courage, so that others may see His light through you. And let me assure you, God's new beginning is not fragile. It cannot be stolen by envy. It cannot be destroyed by opposition. It cannot be dismantled by the schemes of men. What God has ordained cannot be overturned. His decree is final. His word unshakable. His promise unbreakable. The world may rise against you. Voices may shout in resistance. Enemies may plot in the shadows. But all their efforts will collapse before the authority of God's command. If He has said you will rise, then rise you shall. If He has said you will be free, then freedom is already breaking forth. If He has said you will begin anew, then your tomorrow is already written in His book. This is why you cannot afford to doubt. Doubt is a thief. It robs you of courage. It blinds your vision. It weakens your resolve. But faith is the key that unlocks the gates of your new beginning. Faith is the bridge between the promise and the fulfillment. Faith is what takes God at His word, even when your eyes see no evidence. And I tell you this, even a flicker of faith, when anchored in the greatness of God, is more powerful than the loudest roar of fear. Do not despise your small faith. Offer it to God and watch Him multiply it into strength you did not know you possessed. Your journey into a new beginning may be marked by tests. Do not be alarmed by them. Tests are not meant to destroy you. They are meant to reveal the strength God has placed within you. Just as fire refines gold, trials refine your faith. Just as storms reveal the strength of a tree's roots, challenges reveal the depth of your trust in God. Every test is evidence that God is preparing you for more. Every obstacle is an opportunity for your faith to grow. Every resistance is a signal that your destiny is worth fighting for. Do not shrink back in the face of trials. Stand firm, for the one who called you is faithful. And never forget, God's new beginning is not about erasing your story. It is about redeeming it. He will take the very chapters you wish you could tear out and use them as testimony. He will turn your pain into purpose, your scars into symbols of survival, your weakness into platforms of His strength. Nothing is wasted in the hands of God. Every tear, every struggle, every detour, it all becomes part of a greater narrative, one that points not to your greatness, but to His. My friend, hear this with every fiber of your being. Your story is not ending in defeat. It is beginning in victory. God is not finished with you. He is the author of your life, and He never leaves a page incomplete. What He has started, He will bring to completion. What He has promised, He will fulfill. What He has spoken, He will bring to pass. Do not let the darkness of yesterday blind you to the sunrise of tomorrow, for God is already at work in your life. This is not the time to shrink back. This is not the time to surrender to fear. This is the time to rise, to trust, to believe with unshakable confidence that the Almighty is guiding your steps. God is your shield, your strength, your deliverer, and your guide. If He says a new beginning is coming, then you can stand firm, knowing it is already written in His plan. The doors that were shut will open. The chains that bound you will fall. The weight that crushed you will lift. And the sorrow that once drowned you will be replaced with joy that overflows. Walk forward boldly, for you are walking with God. Do not dwell on what lies in ruins behind you, for your destiny is not in the ashes of yesterday, but in the promise of tomorrow. Do not fear what you cannot see, for God already stands in the places you have yet to walk. Do not question His strength, for His power has never known defeat. Step boldly into this new season with courage, with faith, and with a flame of hope alive within your heart. For the Maker of heaven and earth has already spoken it into being. The page is turning. The chapter is changing. The story is moving forward. And it is God Himself who holds the pen to write the next line of your life. Trust His hand. Walk in His way. Yield to His will. And you will witness with your own eyes what only He can bring to pass. A divine new beginning has been spoken over your life. And when God proclaims it, no force in creation can undo it. Your future is secured. Your steps are ordered. And your victory is already written. My friends, I want you to listen tonight with the deepest focus of your heart. What I am about to share is not just another sound to fill the quiet. It is a living truth designed to cut through the weight of your sorrow and spark a flame of hope within you. Right now, in the silence of your struggle, in the unseen corners of your pain, in the long nights when tears soak your pillow and no one knows the battles you are fighting, grasp this with unshakable conviction. God is closing your chapter of pain and your victory is near. This is not wishful thinking. This is not hollow encouragement. This is the eternal reality that when God authors your story, He never abandons you in the darkness. The pain you've carried, the valleys you've crossed, the betrayals you've endured, the loneliness that has pierced your heart, all of it has an expiration date under God's hand. And today I declare to you that the chapter of suffering is drawing to an end because God Himself is turning the page toward your victory. You see, too often we measure our lives by the weight of our trials, and we think that pain has the final say. We wake up with burdens and go to bed with worries. We walk through the day haunted by memories of what was taken from us, opportunities that slipped away, people who abandoned us in storms that nearly drowned us. We think the season of loss will never end. But I want you to know, pain is not eternal. Suffering is not sovereign. Trouble does not hold the pen to your life story. Only God holds that pen. And when God decides that enough is enough, when God says the wilderness has lasted long enough, when God declares that your season of breaking has fulfilled its purpose, nothing and no one can stop him from closing the chapter of pain and leading you into victory. You may feel tonight like the weight of your sorrow has chained you to the ground. You may feel that your enemies have triumphed, that your tears have been wasted, that your prayers have gone unheard. But let me speak directly to your spirit. Every tear you shed has been seen by God. Every cry of your heart has been heard by God. Every silent groan you thought no one noticed has been recorded by God. And God does not waste pain. God does not overlook suffering. God does not ignore the heart that leans on Him in the darkest of nights. The very struggles that nearly broke you will become the testimony that elevates you. The very losses that tried to define you will become the stepping stones of your new beginning. God is closing your chapter of pain because He has been preparing a greater victory than you could imagine. And when God brings victory, it is not halfway. It is not partial. It is not a fragile gift that slips away overnight. No, when God gives victory, He seals it with His authority. He crowns it with His power. He surrounds it with His glory. When God lifts you out of the pit, He sets your feet on solid ground where no enemy can shake you. When God restores you, He does not merely give back what was stolen. He multiplies it. He magnifies it. He makes it greater than what you thought was possible. And some of you tonight are on the very edge of that breakthrough. You may not see it, but you can feel it. You can sense in your spirit that the winds are changing, that the night is almost over, that the dawn is about to break. That's not your imagination. That is God whispering to your heart. Hold on. The chapter of pain is closing, and the victory I have written for you is near. Do not be deceived by the silence of the present moment. Sometimes, before the greatest victories, God allows a holy stillness. He allows you to stand in a place where it feels like nothing is happening, where doors remain shut, where prayers feel unanswered. But that silence is not absence. That stillness is not neglect. That waiting is not rejection. It is preparation. God has been preparing your heart. God has been shaping your character. God has been pruning your life. God has been removing what could not go with you into the next chapter. Because when He brings you into victory, you cannot carry the baggage of yesterday's wounds. You cannot walk into the new with the weight of the old. God is not just ending your pain. He is transforming you in the process so that when you step into victory, you will stand stronger, wiser, and more grounded in faith than ever before. My friend, think of the battles you have fought. Think of the betrayals you have survived. And think of the nights you thought you would not make it, and yet here you are, still standing. That alone is proof that God has been with you all along. You did not keep yourself alive. You did not sustain your own breath. You did not carry yourself through the valley. God did. And if God has brought you this far, do you think He will abandon you at the threshold of victory? No. God does not bring His children halfway. God does not stop at the wilderness. God brings his people into the promised land, into the fullness of his plan, into the victory he has ordained. And the same God who carried you through the fire will carry you into the triumph. Let me tell you this: when God closes a chapter, no power in this world can reopen it. That chapter of pain, no matter how long it has lingered, is not eternal. God holds the key, and when he locks the door to that pain, the enemy has no authority to drag you back. You are not bound to yesterday's sorrow. You are not chained to yesterday's betrayal. You are not enslaved to yesterday's tears. God has declared freedom. And when God declares freedom, it cannot be undone. Some of you tonight have been asking, when will it end? When will I see the light? When will I feel peace again? I want you to hear this as clearly as I can say it. Your waiting is not wasted. Your trial is not permanent. And your victory is nearer than you think. You may not see it in the natural yet, but in the spiritual realm, God is already writing the new chapter. The pages of your life are being turned, and the pain that once defined you will become the testimony that refines you. And so I say to you tonight, do not misinterpret the pain you have endured. It's evidence that God has abandoned you. Know the very fact that you are still alive, still breathing, still able to lift your head and listen to this message is living proof that God has been carrying you through it all. Pain was never meant to be your home. It was never meant to be the final chapter of your story. Pain was only the passage, not the destination. And when God allows his children to pass through a season of affliction, it is never to destroy them, but to refine them, to strengthen them, to prepare them for the victory that is coming. Look closely at the way God works. When he writes a story, he does not skip the valleys, but he always leads through them. When he paints a picture, he does not erase the shadows, but he uses them to bring contrast to the light. When he builds a person, he allows them to feel the weight of the hammer and the fire of the forge, because he is shaping them into something stronger, more resilient, more unshakable than they ever thought they could be. And if you are in the fire tonight, do not think for a moment that it is random. Do not think that it is wasted. God is using it, and he is already planning the moment when he will bring you out radiant, victorious, and transformed. There is a profound truth that many overlook. Sometimes before God opens the door of victory, he must close the doors that keep us tied to pain. That closing can feel like loss. It can feel like betrayal. It can feel like the tearing away of something you thought you could not live without. But God knows what you cannot see. He knows the dangers hidden in attachments that would destroy you. He knows the harm of relationships that would sabotage your destiny. He knows the weakness of structures you have built on shaky ground. And so God, in his wisdom, closes chapters we thought we needed so he can open doors we never imagined. That is not cruelty. That is mercy. That is the love of a father who sees beyond the moment. I tell you, sometimes the hardest thing for us to accept is that God loves us too much to let us stay where we are. You wanted to hold on to that friendship, but God saw it was poisoning your spirit. You wanted that job to last forever, but God knew it would rob you of your true calling. You wanted that season to continue, but God knew it was keeping you small when he had designed you for something greater. And so, he closed it. And yes, it hurt. Yes, it broke you for a time. Yes, it left you wondering why. But the same God who allowed that chapter to close is the God who is preparing the chapter of your victory. I want you to imagine this. Every tear you have shed has watered the soil of your future harvest. Every sleepless night has been counted in the courts of heaven. Every sigh you have released has echoed in the ears of the Almighty. and none of it has been forgotten. God is a God of justice, and He will not allow the weight of your suffering to outweigh the glory of your victory. The balance will shift. The scale will tip. The very forces that pushed against you will be silenced when God raises you up. The very pain that tried to bury you will become the testimony that lifts others. And you will stand not as a victim of sorrow, but as a vessel of triumph under the hand of God. I know there are some who feel that the pain has lasted too long, that the valley has been too deep, that the shadows have stretched too far. But I assure you, pain has a limit, but God has no limit. Suffering has an end, but God's faithfulness has no end. The night may feel long, but the dawn is inevitable. And when God says the morning has come, no darkness can argue, no despair can resist. No enemy can hold back the rising of His light. Your morning is coming. The Son of God's mercy is about to rise on your life, and the shadows of your suffering will flee away. Hear me with the depth of your spirit. God has not been preparing defeat for you. He has been preparing victory. God has not been writing tragedy as your final line. He has been writing triumph. You may have thought the pain was a punishment, but it was a preparation. You may have thought the silence was abandonment, but it was alignment. You may have thought the loss was the end, but it was the foundation for a greater beginning. And when God brings you into that beginning, it will be more than a new season. It will be a testimony that will shake the very ground beneath your enemies. Do not think for a moment that your pain has gone unnoticed. Do not think that your enemies will escape accountability. God is not blind. God is not unjust. God has seen every injustice, every betrayal, every wound inflicted upon your soul. And God will not allow evil to triumph over those who trust in Him. When God closes the chapter of pain, He also silences the voices that mocked you. He confounds the plans that opposed you. He shatters the weapons that were raised against you. Your victory is not just personal relief, it is divine vindication. It is God saying to the world, "This is my child, and I will not allow pain to define them." How often we forget that God is the master author. We see only a page or two of our lives and we think the story is over. But God holds the entire book. He knows where the twists will lead. He knows how the conflict will resolve. He knows the ending long before you experience the middle. And if God says the chapter of pain is closing, then you can rest assured the story is not tragedy. It is triumph. The ink of suffering may stain some pages, but the ink of victory will write the conclusion. Let me tell you, the presence of pain is not the absence of God. The endurance of pain is not the defeat of God's promise. The length of pain is not the measure of God's love. On the contrary, the very fact that you have endured pain is proof that God's hand has held you all along. If He had not been with you, the pain would have destroyed you. If He had not been your shield, the fire would have consumed you. If He had not been your rock, the storm would have swept you away. You are still here, not because of your strength, but because of God's strength. And if God has preserved you through the chapter of pain, He will surely bring you into the chapter of victory. Your heart may be weary, your faith may be stretched, your strength may be almost gone. But hear me, you are closer to victory than you realize. The darkest part of the night is just before dawn. The most silent moment of the trial is just before the breakthrough. The heaviest weight of the burden is just before God lifts it. Hold on, for you are standing on the edge of transformation. God is turning the page, and your chapter of pain is about to be sealed behind you forever. My friend, when you look back on your journey, you will realize that the very nights you thought would destroy you were the nights that God was shaping you. The loneliness that cut so deep, the rejection that stung like fire, the prayers that seemed unanswered. These were not wasted moments. They were chiseling moments. They were holy appointments where God, unseen by human eyes, was working on your spirit, fortifying your faith, and teaching you to trust Him beyond the visible. Do not despise the process, for the process is the womb of your victory. Every season of trial has been a classroom where God has prepared you for the next chapter. And now, as the curtain of pain begins to fall, He is ready to unveil the new act of your life, radiant with His power and marked by His mercy. Consider this: a seed must go underground before it can rise in the dark soil, unseen, hidden, and pressed by the weight of earth. It seems lifeless, yet within that soil transformation is taking place. Roots are being stretched, foundations are being built, and the life within is breaking through its shell. And then, when the time is right, what once was buried pushes upward, reaching toward the light, becoming a tree that bears fruit in its season. Your pain has been that soil. It has pressed you. It has hidden you. It has seemed like the end. But God has been using it to grow your roots, to deepen your strength, and to prepare you for the moment you will rise. And now, that moment is near. The soil is about to break open, and your victory is about to burst forth for all to see. Do not be surprised if those around you cannot understand your journey. Some have watched your tears and thought you were finished. Some have seen your losses and assumed you were defeated. Some may even have rejoiced at your suffering, believing it was the end of your story. But God delights in confounding the expectations of men. He takes the weak and makes them strong. He takes the rejected and makes them chosen. He takes the broken and makes them whole. And when He lifts you up, those who mocked you will have no explanation. Those who doubted you will have no argument. And those who opposed you will have no power to stop it. Your victory will not be for your glory alone. It will be a testimony that God's hand is mighty, that His timing is perfect, and that His word is true. Let me say to you, victory is not simply the absence of pain. It is the triumph that comes after pain has done its work. It is the joy that follows weeping. It is the harvest that springs from sowing in tears. When God speaks victory, He does not wipe away the memory of your pain. He redeems it. He turns it into wisdom, into strength, into a living testimony that causes others to say, "Surely God was with them." Your victory was never meant to be only for you. It is for those who will find renewed hope through the power of your story. It is for the hearts who will witness your rising and believe that their own breakthrough can come too. It is for the generations who will look back and proclaim, "If God could lead them through that valley, He can lead me through mine." Know this truth: the victory of God always outweighs what was lost. Pain may subtract, but God multiplies. Suffering may steal, but God restores. Trials may strip you down, but God covers you in glory. And when He restores, He never takes you back to where you were. He raises you to something greater. That is why you cannot cling to the past. That is why you must release what has been lost. Because God is not trying to bring you back to what you once had. He is trying to lead you into something greater than you have ever known. The pain was a signal that something old was ending, and the victory is the promise that something new and greater is beginning. Some of you have been carrying pain so long that you have begun to identify with it. You wake up expecting sorrow. You walk through the day expecting disappointment. You lay down at night expecting the ache of loneliness to greet you again. But let me remind you, pain is not your identity. Suffering is not your name. You are not the child of sorrow. You are the child of God. And God has not destined you for endless tears. He has destined you for joy. He has destined you for peace. He has destined you for victory. If you have worn pain like a garment, it is time to lay it down. God is clothing you with new strength, with new hope, with new purpose. Do not wear yesterday's grief into tomorrow's blessing. And I must speak plainly. There are times when God will allow your strength to be completely spent, so you will stop relying on yourself and start leaning fully on Him. That breaking you felt was not to destroy you, but to shift your dependence. That silence you endured was not neglect, but a call to press deeper into His presence. For true victory is not just about overcoming circumstances. It is about discovering the power of trusting God beyond circumstances. When you learn to rest in His hands, when you learn to walk by His guidance, when you learn to cling to His promises, even when the evidence around you is bleak, that is when victory becomes unshakable. Because then your victory is not rooted in changing conditions, but in the unchanging God who governs all conditions. Do you realize how near you are to break through? Think of how storms work. Just before the skies clear, the winds often rage the hardest. Just before dawn, the night feels the coldest. Just before the seed breaks through the soil, the pressure is the greatest. And perhaps the reason your struggle has intensified, perhaps the reason your pain has seemed unbearable is because you are at the edge of victory. Do not give up now. Do not let despair convince you that the chapter will never close. The greater the pressure, the closer the breakthrough. The heavier the burden, the nearer the release. The darker the night, the closer the morning. Hold fast, for God is about to show Himself mighty on your behalf. You must also know that when God gives victory, He gives peace that no enemy can disturb. People may try to drag you back into conflict, but they will fail. Circumstances may try to shake you, but they will crumble. Temptations may rise, but they will wither away. Because when God declares a new chapter, He surrounds it with His protection. What He seals, no man can unseal. What He blesses, no curse can reverse. What He establishes, no enemy can uproot. And your victory will not just be a moment of relief. It will be a season of stability, a testimony of God's faithfulness that will endure. My beloved, there comes a moment in every life where the weight of suffering seems too heavy to bear. And yet, it is in that very moment that God proves His strength to be greater than your weakness. Think back on the days when you thought you would collapse under the burden of sorrow, yet somehow a hidden strength arose within you. That was not your doing. That was God sustaining you. Think of the nights when the silence of your room was deafening, when loneliness wrapped itself around you like a cloak, yet still you awoke the next morning to face another day. That resilience was not born of your own power. It was the hand of God lifting you. And if God has carried you this far, will He not also carry you into the chapter of triumph? The God who held you in your valley will not forsake you on the mountain. Victory is not a dream for someday. It is a promise sealed by the Word of God. Pain may have shouted the loudest in your past season, but it will not have the final word. God always reserves the last word for Himself. And when He speaks, the echoes of suffering are silenced. When He declares, "It is finished," your chapter of pain must close. And when He says, "Rise," no chain can hold you down. God does not tease His children with hope. He fulfills it. God does not plant a vision in your heart only to let it wither. He brings it to harvest. The same voice that spoke light into the void is the voice speaking to your soul today, declaring that your darkness must give way to dawn. I want you to grasp this truth. The delay of your victory has not been denial. Many of you have prayed and prayed and prayed again, only to feel the heavens were silent. You have wondered if God has forgotten, if perhaps your cries were lost in the wind. But let me remind you, silence is not absence. Silence is often the canvas on which God paints his greatest answers. Just because you did not see movement does not mean God was not moving. Just because you did not hear thunder does not mean God was not speaking. The quiet seasons are the proving grounds of faith, where God anchors you deeper, so that when victory comes, you will not be shaken. And how marvelous is the way God works. He takes what the enemy meant for harm and bends it into good. He takes the traps laid against you and turns them into stepping stones. He takes the ashes of your sorrow and creates beauty that cannot be denied. Your chapter of pain was not a sign that you were cursed. It was proof that you were chosen for a greater glory. If the weight was heavy, it was because the blessing waiting is weightier still. If the battle was fierce, it was because the crown ahead is greater than you imagined. Do not resent the size of your trial, for it is an indicator of the magnitude of your victory. Listen closely. God is not only preparing to deliver you from pain, he is preparing to establish you in joy. You will not walk out of this season limping. You will walk out leaping. You will not emerge carrying chains. You will emerge carrying testimonies. You will not leave this valley broken. You will leave it built up by the very hand of God. And those who once looked upon you with pity will look upon you with awe, not because of what you have done, but because of what God has done in you. Understand that pain has a purpose. It strips away the unnecessary. It burns away false illusions. It reveals where your true foundation lies. And when everything else crumbles, pain forces you to cling to God alone. That is the gift hidden in the trial. It redirects your trust. It teaches you that people may leave, opportunities may fade, possessions may vanish, but God remains unshakable. And once you learn that lesson, once you anchor yourself to the eternal rock, then you are unmovable. Pain may have brought you to that rock, but victory will be the fruit of staying upon it. The chapter of pain was long, but the victory will be longer. The sorrow was deep, but the joy will be deeper. The night was dark, but the morning will be brighter. You have not endured in vain. The God who numbers the stars has also numbered your tears, and he is about to repay you with a joy that outweighs every sorrow. He is about to open doors no man can shut, to bring opportunities no enemy can block, to write a new page in your story that will astonish even you. Do not underestimate what God can do in a moment. Years of pain can be overturned in a single act of his favor. Decades of tears can be answered in a single sweep of his hand. One divine moment can shift the entire trajectory of your life. Beloved, listen with all the strength of your heart, because what I am about to say is not just a word of encouragement. It is a revelation for your soul. Too many of you have walked with your head bowed down, thinking the valley is permanent, believing the wound will never heal, assuming the storm will never end. But let me tell you tonight, with all the fire that God has placed in my spirit, the valley is temporary. The wound is not eternal, and the storm has an appointed end. God himself has set a limit on your suffering, and when that limit is reached, he commands the trial to stop. He orders the pain to cease. He declares to the storm, "Peace, be still." The same God who commands the stars in the heavens and the seas on the earth is the God who commands the seasons of your life. And when he says the chapter of pain is closing, there is no force in heaven or on earth that can keep it open. You may wonder why the path had to be so rough, why the journey had to be so painful, why the people you trusted turned away, why the dreams you cherished were crushed in your hands. Child of God, remember this: God wastes nothing. Not a single tear, not a single trial, not a single disappointment is wasted in his design. Pain may have broken you, but it also taught you. Pain may have wounded you, but it also sharpened you. Pain may have humbled you, but it also drew you closer to God. And now, the very experiences you thought would end, you will become the evidence of God's power working through you. The chapter of pain was never meant to define you. It was meant to refine you, and the refining is nearly complete. For victory is at the door. Do not despise the waiting. The waiting has been the furnace where God has purified your motives. The waiting has been the training ground where he has strengthened your faith. The waiting has been the silent test where he has separated what was weak from what is eternal within you. Waiting does not mean God has forgotten. It means God has been preparing something too great to be rushed. When you plant a seed, you do not see its growth in an instant. It must break. It must root. It must be hidden before it springs forth. And just like that seed, your life has been underground in darkness unseen. But now the soil is beginning to shift. The roots are strong and the shoot is ready to burst forth into the light. God is about to bring you into a season of undeniable growth. And no one will be able to deny that it is his hand upon you. Mark this in your heart: the victory that God is preparing for you will not only end your pain, but will silence your enemies. Those who laughed at your tears will watch your joy. Those who mocked your struggle will witness your rise. Those who thought you were forgotten will see you honored by the very hand of God. This is not arrogance. It is vindication. It is the justice of God, who will not allow his children to suffer endlessly without reward. You have endured the testing, and now you will enjoy the triumph. You have carried the cross of affliction, and now you will wear the crown of endurance. God has not overlooked you. He has been storing up every moment of your faithfulness, and soon he will pour it out upon you in overflowing measure. But let me warn you with love: do not carry yesterday's chains into tomorrow's freedom. Too many people try to enter victory while still holding on to bitterness, still clinging to the memory of betrayal, still rehearsing the lines of their sorrow. If you walk into your new chapter carrying the weight of the old, you will not taste the fullness of what God has prepared. Release it. Let go of the offenses, lay down the anger, put aside the despair, trust that God has seen it all, and trust that he alone will deal with it. Your job is not to avenge yourself. Your job is to rise when he calls you to rise. Your task is to step forward into the new, unshackled by the past. Because if God has closed that chapter, it means it is finished. Do not open it again with your thoughts, your words, or your fears. I want you to picture this: a traveler burdened with heavy bags, exhausted from the journey, reaching the gates of a great city. At the entrance, the guard says, "You cannot carry all that inside. You must leave it here." At first, the traveler resists clinging to the bags because they have been with him so long. But when he finally lays them down, he discovers that the city ahead is filled with treasures far greater than the weight he left behind. That traveler is you. Those bags are your pain. And that city is your victory. God is asking you to lay it down so He can place something greater in your hand. And let me tell you with boldness, your victory is not just near, it is necessary. It is necessary because others are waiting to see what God will do in your life. There are people whose faith will be ignited when they see your testimony. There are souls who will believe in the goodness of God because they see how He turned your sorrow into joy. There are lives that will be transformed when they see how you endured the valley and came out stronger on the other side. Your victory is not for you alone. It is for everyone who will draw hope from your story. That is why the battle was so fierce. Because the enemy knew your breakthrough would ripple far beyond your life. But the enemy's knowledge is no match for God's power. And soon the ripple of your victory will spread like fire to ignite faith in many. Child of God, there is something powerful that must sink deep into your spirit. Pain is not permanent, but the promises of God are eternal. Your suffering has an expiration date, but God's faithfulness has no end. Your valley is temporary, but the mountain of blessing God is preparing is everlasting. Do not allow the temporary shadows of sorrow to blind you to the eternal light of God's plan. The chapter of pain is closing because it was never meant to be your final destination. It was only the wilderness before the promised land, only the furnace before the gold, only the night before the dawn. I must tell you with urgency, many of you are standing at the very threshold of your breakthrough. But you cannot cross into victory while clinging to the language of despair. You must begin to speak as one who believes in the power of God. Stop saying, "I will always be broken." Stop declaring, "This is my fate." Stop agreeing with the voice of the enemy that says you will never rise. Instead, align your tongue with the truth of God. Speak life over your future. Declare that your story is not over, that the best is yet to come, that your God is greater than your enemies, and that His mercy will carry you through. There is power in your words. And when you declare what God has already ordained, you prepare the atmosphere for victory to manifest. Do not underestimate what God has been doing behind the scenes while you cried in the night. While you felt forgotten, God was orchestrating your restoration. While you thought your prayers were unheard, God was aligning people, opportunities, and seasons to work together for your good. Just because you could not see His hand does not mean it was not moving. Faith is the ability to trust the unseen hand of God. And soon that unseen hand will bring forth visible results that no one can deny. Understand this: when God closes a chapter, it is because He has something far greater to write in the next. He does not remove without the intent to replace. He does not allow loss without preparing restoration. He does not strip away unless He is about to clothe you with something better. And while it may hurt in the moment, while it may feel like devastation, one day you will look back and say, "Thank God that door closed. For had it not closed, I would never have walked into this blessing." The tears of today will become the gratitude of tomorrow when you see how perfectly God was guiding your steps. But hear me clearly, victory is not merely surviving, it is thriving. God does not want you just to crawl out of pain, barely breathing. He wants you to stand tall, renewed in strength, overflowing with joy and radiating with peace. God's kind of victory is complete. It is total. It is undeniable. When He lifts you so high that even your enemies cannot ignore it. When He restores you, He restores in ways that silence every voice of doubt. When He blesses you, He blesses in measures that overflow beyond your own needs, so you can bless others in return. That is the kind of victory that is near. Some of you feel unworthy of such victory. You believe the lie that because of your mistakes, because of your failures, because of your weaknesses, God has disqualified you. But hear me, God does not choose you based on perfection. He chooses you based on His purpose. He does not bless you because you never stumbled. He blesses you because He is merciful and faithful to His word. If victory depended on our perfection, none of us would see it. But because victory depends on the unfailing promises of God, we can all walk in it. Stop disqualifying yourself from what God has already written in your destiny. The chapter of pain is closing not because you earned it, but because God has willed it. And let me press deeper. Sometimes God allows the chapter of pain to linger because He is teaching you endurance. Victory without endurance is fragile. Blessing without character is dangerous. Triumph without humility is destructive. God loves you too much to give you a blessing you are not ready to carry. So He strengthens you in the fire. He humbles you in the valley of He teaches you patience in the waiting. And then when the time is right, He brings you into victory that will not crush you, but sustain you. Do you see the wisdom of God? He is not just preparing a blessing for you, He is preparing you for the blessing. The closing of this chapter will not be quiet. It will be a shift so profound that you will know only God could have done it. The same people who saw you broken will see you restored. The same places where you wept will become places where you rejoice. The same heart that felt crushed will overflow with peace. And when it happens, you will not have to explain it. You will not have to defend it. You will not have to prove it. It will be evident that God has turned the page. Beloved, as I bring this message to a close, I want you to carry one truth above all others. Pain is not forever, but God is. The trials you have endured, the tears you have cried, the nights you thought would never end, these are not the conclusion of your story. They were chapters, but they were not the book. God has been with you through every line, through every page, and now He is ready to turn you into a new season. The chapter of pain is closing, not because the world has changed, not because circumstances have suddenly shifted, but because God has decreed it. And when God decrees a thing, it must come to pass. Walk into this new chapter with faith. Do not carry the ashes of yesterday into the fire of tomorrow. Do not let the memory of sorrow rob you of the joy God is about to give. Raise your gaze toward the one who wrote your story. For the same God who began His work within you will bring it to completion. Victory is not a question of chance. It is a divine guarantee spoken by the mouth of God Himself. So stand firm, beloved child of heaven. Wipe away your tears. Lift your head high. Move forward with holy confidence. You've been tested but never defeated. You've been pressed but not broken. You've been wounded but never destroyed. And soon the radiance of God's glory will shine through your life for all to see. The chapter of sorrow is closing. Your season of waiting has come to an end. And now your victory, heaven sent, divinely written, and unshakably yours, has arrived. There come seasons in life when the weight of the world feels too heavy for your heart to carry. You question whether you have the strength to take another step. You rise each morning only to find the same burden waiting, clinging to you like an unshakable shadow. You pray, you weep, you wait, yet heaven's silence feels louder than your cries. But hear me clearly. With every fiber of my being, I declare to you today that God is preparing to send help that will take your breath away. Not tomorrow by the measures of man's clock, not according to your plans, but in the fullness of His divine timing. He is getting ready to move in your life in ways you never imagined could be real. And when it happens, you will stand in awe and know beyond a shadow of doubt that it was only God who brought it to pass. We live in a world where many are tired, discouraged, and broken. Perhaps you have faced doors that would not open, people who turned their backs on you, dreams that shattered into pieces at your feet, and the whisper of despair tries to convince you that this is the end of the road. But hear me, what you think is the end is often the very moment God is beginning something new. When your resources run dry, when your strength fades, when your ideas collapse, that is when God steps in and declares, "Now watch what I will do." Because if you could fix it yourself, if you could climb out on your own, you would be tempted to take the glory. But God allows the night so His light may be revealed in its brilliance. Do not be deceived by appearances. You may not see the hand of God working, but He is never still. You may think you are forgotten, but His eye is upon you. You may believe the delay means denial, but often the delay is the preparation for something greater than you asked. Think of it this way. When the seed is in the ground, it looks as though nothing is happening. Day after day, the soil appears unchanged. But beneath the surface, the roots are forming, the foundation is strengthening, and in due season, that seed will burst forth into life. So it is with the help that God is about to send into your life. It may look like silence, but beneath the unseen, the miracle is already unfolding. God does not operate according to the clock on your wall or the deadlines you set. He moves according to His wisdom, His mercy, and His plan. And His plan, though often mysterious to us, is always good. The very thing that seems like a delay may be His way of protecting you, of preparing you, of aligning the pieces so that when the answer comes, it will not only bless you, but also glorify Him in the sight of many. There are times when you expect help come from familiar places. You look to the people you've supported, hoping they will return the favor. You look to your family, your friends, your connections, your own strength. And when they fail you, you feel abandoned. But the help God is about to send may not come from where you expect. It may come from a stranger, from a door you never knocked on, from a blessing you did not even pray for. That is how God works. He surprises. He astonishes. He demonstrates that He alone is the source of all provision. When you are at your lowest point, God is preparing to lift you higher than you imagine. When you feel abandoned, God is drawing closest to you. When you feel forgotten, He is engraving your name on the palm of His hand. Do not underestimate what God can do in a single moment. One touch of His favor, one opening of His door, one whisper of His command, and everything can change. That debt can be canceled. That sickness can be healed. That broken relationship can be restored. That opportunity can be released. And when it happens, you will not say it was coincidence. You will say, this was the hand of God. There is a reason you are hearing these words today. It is not by accident. God orchestrates moments to awaken your faith, to remind you that He is not finished with you yet. You have cried in the midnight hour, wondering if He hears. You have wrestled with the silence, wondering if He cares. And the answer that echoes from heaven is this: He hears, He sees, He cares. And He is moving. Even now, the help you need is already on its way. You may not see the caravan coming, but it is approaching. You may not hear the footsteps, but they are nearing. God is aligning circumstances, people, and timing to bring forth what you cannot produce on your own. Do not give up one step before your breakthrough. Too many abandon their faith in the final stretch, not realizing how close they were to the answer. The enemy would love nothing more than to rob you of the harvest by convincing you to quit in the waiting. But I tell you today, hold on. Hold on, because the dawn is nearer than you think. Hold on because the cloud the size of a man's hand is already rising on the horizon. Hold on because God's help is never late, never weak, never insufficient. And when it comes, it will not just meet your need, it will exceed it. Because God is not a God of barely enough. He is a God of more than enough. He does not simply patch the broken pieces. He makes all things new. He does not simply give you strength for today. He gives you overflowing joy, peace that surpasses understanding, favor that outruns your qualifications. The help He is about to send is designed to remind you that He is greater than the opposition, greater than the problem, greater than the fear that haunts you. Do you know why God sometimes waits until the midnight hour? It is because the midnight hour strips away every false hope. It removes every illusion that man or money or strength could deliver you. It leaves only one option, God. And when God becomes your only option, He also becomes your greatest revelation. You discover that He is not just a distant power, but a present help in time of need. You discover that He is not just the God of creation, but the God of your circumstance. You discover that He is not just a God who once worked miracles, but a God who is about to perform one in your very life. Right now, some of you are on the edge of despair, but you are also on the edge of a miracle. The help that is coming will not only restore what was lost, but will establish something greater than what you had before. You may have been crying over closed doors, but the new door God is about to open will make you forget the pain of rejection. You may have been lamenting the delay, but when the answer comes, you will see why the delay was necessary. Because God is not simply answering your prayer. He is weaving a tapestry of glory that will be a testimony for years to come. Do not think God has forgotten the tears you have shed. Every cry has been recorded. Every sigh has been noticed. And though the silence felt unbearable, it was not absence. It was preparation. Because God knows exactly what you need and exactly when you need it. And when His help comes, it will not just satisfy your longing, it will silence the voices of doubt that told you it would never happen. It will confound the enemies who thought you were finished. It will cause even your critics to say, "Surely this was the hand of God." There is a truth I want you to hold firmly in your spirit today. God often hides His greatest answers in what looks like the darkest hour. You see, the human eye can only take in what is visible, but God is working beyond the visible. He is weaving threads of destiny where you see only broken strands. You think you are surrounded by defeat, but you are actually surrounded by the unseen hand of God, arranging and shifting, breaking and building, so that your life aligns with His purpose. The help that is coming will not merely rescue you from trouble. It will reveal to you that God has been closer in the valley than you ever felt on the mountain. Do not despise the waiting season. It is in the waiting that God refines your spirit. It is in the waiting that God stretches your faith until it is strong enough to hold the weight of the blessing He is about to deliver. If He sent the help too soon, you might not be prepared to carry it. If He opened the door too early, you might walk through with pride instead of gratitude. But when He waits until every false support has collapsed, then you know beyond argument that what you receive is a pure gift of God. The help that is coming is not something you will boast about earning. It is something you will only testify of receiving. Some of you have been praying for strength, but instead of immediate relief, the challenges grew harder. You wondered why God would allow more weight on shoulders already bent. Yet it is in those moments that spiritual muscles are formed. Just as the body grows stronger by resistance, so the soul grows stronger by trial. The very pressure that seemed unbearable has been forging resilience inside of you. And soon the help God sends will not only lift the weight, but reveal the strength you gained in the struggle. God does not waste suffering. He does not waste tears. He does not waste disappointment. Everything you have endured is being redeemed. And when His help arrives, you will see how every valley prepared you for the mountaintop. How every closed door prepared you for the right door. How every loss prepared you for the gain that will not be taken from you. That is why you cannot give up now. The help that is on its way will make sense of what has felt senseless. There is another truth you must hold in your heart. The help God sends may come wrapped in a form you do not recognize. Sometimes God disguises His answers so that only the eyes of faith can see them. The blessing may come through someone you overlooked, through a circumstance you thought were against you, through a shift you thought would break you. But when you look again, you will see the fingerprints of God all over it. That is why you must not measure your situation by what it looks like today. The very thing you thought was rejection may turn out to be redirection. The very storm you thought was sent to destroy you may turn out to be the wind that carries you to your destiny. The help God is preparing will not only surprise you, it will silence the doubts of those who thought you were finished. It will confound the voices that mocked it. It will shut the mouths of those who said you were wasting your time trusting in God. Because when He moves, there is no denying it. You may have been overlooked, underestimated, even despised. But when the help of God arrives, no one will be able to ignore what He has done in your life. Do not let fear rob you of expectation. Fear will tell you that nothing will change, that the silence means abandonment, that the delay means you have been forgotten. But faith says God is working behind the curtain, even if I cannot see Him on the stage. Faith says my waiting is not wasted. Faith says the God who sustained me yesterday will deliver me tomorrow. And it is that kind of faith that keeps you standing in the storm, believing in the night, trusting when everything else collapses. Think of the moments in your life when God came through before. Recall the times when you thought you could not endure, yet somehow you made it through. Was it your strength? Was it your wisdom? Or was it the unseen hand of God, guiding, protecting, sustaining you when you did not even realize it? If He helped you then, He will help you again. If He carried you before, He will carry you now. The same God who parted the sea for others will part the sea for you. The same God who provided water in the wilderness then is the same God who will provide streams in your desert today. Lift your perspective higher. Too often we measure God's power by the limits of our own imagination. But His thoughts are higher than ours, His ways beyond ours. What you think is the best outcome is only a shadow compared to what He has planned. You ask for survival, but He is preparing abundance. You ask for a door, but He is building a palace. You ask for a small answer, but He is preparing a testimony that will not only bless you, but bless generations after you. The help He is about to send is not just for your comfort. It is for His glory. And when it comes, you will see that every tear was not in vain. Every sleepless night, every cry of desperation, every moment of weakness will be redeemed in the light of His deliverance. And you will testify not in theory, but in experience that God is faithful, that God is powerful, that God is closer than your breath and stronger than your enemies. There comes a point in every life where the horizon looks empty, where every path forward feels blocked, and the soul whispers that there is no way out. But that is precisely the place where God delights to prove Himself mighty. God specializes in impossible situations. He specializes in opening what man has shut, in lifting what man has dropped, in building where man has torn down. You may look at your circumstance today and see only wall, but God is preparing doors within those very walls. What you see as a barrier, He sees as the canvas for His miracle. God's help does not arrive according to your preference, it arrives according to His perfection. And when it comes, it is always right, always enough, always purposeful. You may feel that the delay has drained you, that the silence has broken you. But God allows the stretching so that when the blessing arrives, you will not only receive it, but you will also recognize it. Because too often the human heart takes credit for what belongs to God. He removes every false anchor so that when He lifts you, you know who your deliverer is. Think of the times when you thought you were being buried, but in truth, you were being planted. The soil closed in, the light disappeared, and you thought it was the end. But beneath the surface, in the hidden place, God was forming new life. And then came the season of breaking through. And what looked like death became the beginning of abundance. This is how God works. What feels like defeat may in fact be preparation. What feels like abandonment may be the positioning for His mighty hand. And when His help comes, it will not only raise you, it will reveal to you that every step of the journey had purpose. Do not underestimate the God you serve. He is not bound by the opinions of men. He is not limited by the economy. He is not restrained by sickness, by fear, by impossibility. When He decides to send help, it can come from sources you never imagined. It can come from people who don't even know you. It can come through doors you didn't even knock on. It can arrive in ways that make you shake your head in awe. That is why you must lift your expectation beyond the ordinary. Stop looking only at what you can calculate and prepare your heart for what only God can orchestrate. And remember this, when God sends His help, it is not fragile. It is not temporary. It is not uncertain. The help of God comes with weight, with power, with authority. It cannot be stopped by your enemies, delayed by your critics, or diminished by your doubts. When He speaks the command, creation itself responds. When He declares the door open, no hand can close it. When He chooses to lift you, no force in heaven or on earth can keep you bound. That is the certainty of His help. Perhaps you have cried out, "God, where are you? Do you see me? Do you hear me?" And the silence felt deafening. But silence does not mean absence. Silence often means strategy. God is not ignoring your cry. He is orchestrating your deliverance. You are measuring the silence in days, but He is aligning eternity to answer you in a way that will shape more than just your moment. He is answering in a way that will shape your future, your testimony, your legacy. Do not measure your situation by what you lack. Instead, measure it by who God is. The human heart says, "I don't have enough strength, enough money, enough support." But the reality is this: God Himself is enough. And when His help arrives, it is not about the size of your bank account or the circle of people around you or the resources in your hand. It is about His unlimited supply. He has ways of providing that cannot be explained, ways of lifting that cannot be reasoned, ways of rescuing that cannot be duplicated. Some of you have been asking for small things, but God is preparing greater things. You pray for the valley to end, but He is preparing a mountain. You pray for the storm to cease, but He is preparing clear skies that will stretch further than your vision. You pray for a drop of water, but He is preparing rivers. That is why His help will surprise you, because it will exceed your request. God does not just answer prayers, He fulfills purposes. And His purpose for you is far greater than your present request. And when the help comes, it will not only bless you, it will bless those around you. The overflow of His provision will touch your family, your community, your future generations. That is why you cannot quit now, because the help that is coming is bigger than you. It is about God revealing Himself to others through you. Your testimony will be the evidence that encourages someone else in their darkest hour. Your breakthrough will be the reason someone else believes that God can do it for them too. There are seasons when the very ground beneath your feet seems to shake. When the structures you trusted collapse and the path you thought was secure suddenly disappears. In those moments, fear whispers that you are alone, that there is no way forward. That hope is gone. But let me declare to you with all the strength of my voice and all the conviction of my soul, God is still your foundation. Though men may fail you, though circumstances may betray you, though even your own heart may tremble, God remains unshaken. And when He sends His help, it is not built on sand. It is built on the eternal rock of His word, His promise, His faithfulness. You may look at your life right now and feel that everything is scattered, broken into fragments beyond repair. But God is not intimidated by brokenness. He is the one who gathers the fragments so that nothing is lost. His help does not come to simply sweep away the pieces. His help comes to transform them into something greater than they ever were before. The very thing you thought disqualified you will be the evidence of His power. The scars you carry will not be a mark of shame. They will be a testimony that you endured, that you survived, that you were lifted not by your own strength, but by the hand of God. Understand this: God's help often arrives in a way that stretches your faith. It may not look like what you prayed for. It may not follow the path you imagined, but it will always carry the mark of His wisdom. That is why you must remain sensitive to His leading, because the help may come from where you least expect. God sent water from a rock, bread from the sky, protection from the very sea that threatened to swallow His people. And if He could do it then, He can do it now. Do not put limits on how God can deliver you. Lift your faith beyond the boundaries of logic and open your heart to the endlessness of His power. There is a reason God sometimes waits until the last possible moment. He wants you to see that when He moves, it is not by coincidence, not by human effort, not by chance. It is by His sovereign hand. He wants you to know that you are not sustained by luck, but by His will. He waits until the moment when no one else can claim the credit so that your testimony will be pure. This was God, and when that testimony is spoken, it will encourage not only you, but those who hear it, because faith is contagious. Your breakthrough will ignite faith in others. Your deliverance will prove to others that God still moves, still provides, still rescues. Do not be surprised if the help of God looks like a closed door at first. Sometimes He answers by protecting you from what you asked for. Sometimes God rescues you by leading you down a road you never expected. And even though it stings in the moment, the day will come when you'll look back and thank Him for every closed door that protected your purpose. Because God's help isn't just about giving you what you desire. It's about fulfilling what He knows your soul truly needs. Let me remind you of this truth. The help that comes from God is not weak. It's not short-lived. It's not a patch on a wound that will tear open again tomorrow. When God steps in, His help is steady. It is whole. He never offers half-done answers. He never leaves the story unfinished. He is the Alpha and the Omega, the first and the last. And when he begins his work in you, he completes it. So lift your heart today and remember this: your season of silence was not wasted. Your tears in the night were not ignored. Your groans too deep for words have all been heard. God has been recording every cry, collecting every tear, and now he is preparing the answer. And when it comes, it will not only meet the need, it will exceed the expectation. Because he delights in showing his people that his power has no limits. There are times when life feels like a battlefield. When every direction you turn, you encounter resistance. When your mind is overwhelmed by worry and your heart is weighed down with fear. Yet it is in those very battles that God prepares to reveal himself as your defender. His help is not the help of a distant observer, but of a present warrior. He stands with you in the storm, unseen but unshaken, waiting for the moment when his intervention will break through the chaos like thunder rolling across the sky. And when that moment comes, you will realize that the struggle was never to destroy you, but to set the stage for his glory to be revealed in your life. You may feel surrounded by enemies, by doubt, by impossible odds. But remember this: when God is for you, it does not matter who is against you. 1,000 may rise on one side, 10,000 on the other, but they cannot touch what God has placed his hand upon. His help is not limited by the size of the opposition. The forces against you may look mighty, but the God who stands for you is greater still. His help is not just enough. It is overwhelming, unstoppable, undeniable. Sometimes God allows the heat of the fire to increase not because he has abandoned you, but because he intends to walk with you in the flames. His help is not always about removing the fire. It is about sustaining you through it so that when you come out, not even the smell of smoke will cling to you. You will emerge stronger, purified, refined, carrying a testimony that no one can deny. That is the kind of help he sends. Help that not only rescues, but transforms. You must understand that the help God sends is never late. Though it may feel delayed, he is not bound by your calendar or your clock. He knows the exact moment when your heart is ready, when your faith is matured, when your testimony will have the greatest impact. If he moved too soon, you might not recognize his hand. If he moved too late, you might think he had forgotten. But God moves at the perfect moment. And when he does, everything falls into place with precision that leaves no doubt it was orchestrated by him. And know this as well: the help God is preparing for you is not just for a moment. It is for a lifetime. He does not simply rescue you from today's problem. He establishes you for tomorrow's purpose. He does not simply lift you out of the pit. He sets your feet on solid ground. His help is not a temporary relief. It is a foundation upon which he builds a new future. And when you look back, you will see that what you thought was a delay was in fact the preparation for a destiny far greater than you imagined. Do not be afraid of the unknown. Many times fear grips us not because of what we face, but because of what we cannot see. But God sees what you cannot. He sees the path ahead. He sees the dangers you cannot predict. He sees the blessings you have not yet dreamed. His help is shaped by his vision, not your limitation. That is why you must trust him, even when you do not understand him. His wisdom is higher. His knowledge is deeper. His purpose is greater. And when his help comes, you will understand that every unanswered question was part of the greater answer. Some of you have been waiting for years, holding on to promises that seem to fade with time. You wonder if you misheard, if your prayers were ignored, if hope is foolish. But I tell you with boldness, God has not forgotten. Time may weaken human resolve, but it does not weaken divine promise. If He has spoken into your life, He will bring it to pass. His help may not come in the year you expected, but when it comes, it will restore all the years you thought were wasted. It will redeem the time. It will pour out blessings so abundant that you will no longer lament the delay. You will thank God for the timing. And let me remind you, the help God sends is not dependent on your perfection. He is not waiting for you to prove yourself flawless. He is looking for faith, for trust, for surrender. He knows your weaknesses, your failures, your flaws, and still He chooses to help, because His help is not about your worthiness, it is about His mercy. His hand moves not because you have earned it, but because He is good, because He is faithful, because He delights in lifting those who call upon Him. There are times when the very walls of life feel as though they are closing in on you. You pray, you wait, you seek, and still the silence feels deafening. But let me tell you this with the authority of truth. Silence is not absence. Waiting is not abandonment. And stillness is not neglect. God has a way of working in the unseen, moving in the background, preparing what eyes cannot yet see and hands cannot yet hold. If only you could grasp for a moment the magnitude of what He is shaping for you, you would not despair in the waiting. You would rejoice because help is not only coming, it is closer than you think, and it will not arrive in an ordinary way. It will surprise you because God never limits His power to your imagination. He goes beyond what you can conceive. When God moves, He does not move timidly. He does not step lightly into your circumstances. He breaks chains. He overturns the tables of despair. He shakes loose what has held you bound. And He brings forth streams in deserts where you thought life could never bloom again. That is why you cannot measure your hope by what you see now, because what you see is temporary, but what God is preparing is eternal. Your present struggle is not evidence that God has forgotten you. It is evidence that He is setting the stage for something so glorious, so profound, that when it comes, you will lift your hands in awe and know that only God could have done this. You must understand the enemy of your soul thrives on making you believe that help will never arrive, that you are forsaken, that nothing will change. He whispers lies in the night and plants seeds of doubt in the soil of your heart. But hear me, God's truth is greater than every lie, His light brighter than every shadow, His promises stronger than every doubt. And when God says He will deliver, there is no force in heaven or earth that can keep Him from delivering. The chains may rattle, the darkness may roar, the storm may rage, but none of these things can stop the hand of the Almighty when He declares that your help is on its way. And I tell you this, help from God rarely looks like what you expect. Sometimes it comes through people you never thought would care. Sometimes it arrives in opportunities you thought had slipped away. Sometimes it manifests in strength within you that you didn't even know you carried. Do not despise the way God sends help, because His wisdom is beyond ours. You may look for a ladder, but He will provide wings. You may look for a door, but He will open a river. You may expect provision in one form, but He will pour it out in a way that leaves no doubt that it was His hand and not your own ability that saved you. The surprise of God, God's help, is not simply in the timing, it is in the magnitude. He does not rescue halfway. He does not heal in fragments. He does not deliver in pieces. When He comes in fullness. He comes with abundance. He comes with more than enough. But that is why you must lift your expectation higher. Stop praying as though you are begging a reluctant giver. Pray as one who knows they are speaking to the God who owns all things, who commands the heavens, who speaks and galaxies are born, who declares and nations rise and fall. This is the God who says to you, I am your helper, your shield, your refuge, your strength. But I say to you, you mustn't only believe in the help of God, you must prepare for it. A farmer does not wait for rain with empty fields. He plows, he plants, he readies the soil, so must you ready your heart. Clear out the weeds of doubt, bitterness, and fear. Water the ground with faith, with prayer, with expectation. Because when God sends the rain, only those who have sown will reap. Do not let unbelief rob you of the harvest God is preparing. Stand firm, hold fast, and live each day as though the answer is already on its way. Because it is. You see, God delights in surprising His people, not because He enjoys hiding things, but because He longs for you to see the depth of His love and power when it is revealed. If He gave you everything the moment you asked, you would never know what it is to trust Him, to lean on Him, to watch in awe as He does what you could never do. The surprise is not to taunt you, but to strengthen you. The waiting is not punishment, but preparation. God is about to send help that will not only meet your need, but will exceed it. And when it arrives, you will look back on every sleepless night, every tear, every anxious thought, and you will say, it was worth it. Because God has done what only He could do. I urge you, do not give up now. Do not let the awareness of delay make you abandon the promise. The greatest breakthroughs often come at the very moment you feel like you cannot endure another step. That is where God steps in. That is where He lifts you. That is where He shows Himself mighty. You may not feel strong enough, but you don't have to be. God is your strength. You may not see the way, but you don't have to. God is the way. You may not have the answer, but you don't have to. God is the answer, and His help is nearer than you know. When God prepares to send His help, it often comes at the very moment when human strength has reached its end. That is no accident. God allows the strength of man to fail, so that His power may be seen without question. If you could have saved yourself, you would have given the glory to your own wisdom. If another person had been able to deliver you, you would have leaned on them instead of leaning on God. But when every door is closed, when every resource has dried up, when every plan has collapsed, that is when the stage is set for God to act in a way that no one else can. And when He moves, there will be no confusion about who deserves the praise. All glory will go to God alone. Understand this truth. God is not limited by time, by resources, or by human ability. He is not constrained by what you see in your account, what you hear from the doctors, what people predict about your future. God does not ask permission to bless you. He does not check with your enemies to see if you qualify. He does not consult with the doubters before He decides to act. He is sovereign, and when He chooses to send His help, it will arrive with such force, such clarity, and such power that nothing and no one can prevent it. That is why you must not place your trust in the approval of people. Place your trust in the one who sits above all things, who rules all things, and who moves mountains with a word. And let me tell you this, the help of God is not just about rescuing you from a crisis. It is about transforming you through it. When God sends help, it is not only to pull you out, but to lift you higher. It is not just to put out the fire, but to refine you in it. It is not just to calm the storm, but to show you that He is greater than the storm. Sometimes God allows you to reach the breaking point so that when His help arrives, you are not just relieved, you are changed. You are stronger. You are wiser. You are more anchored in faith than ever before. That is the true power of divine help. It does not only change circumstances, it changes you. There will be people who look at you and wonder how you made it through. They will ask how you survived what should have destroyed you, how you stood when others would have fallen, how you kept believing when everything around you was crumbling. And you will not point to luck or chance or coincidence. You will point only to God. For the help that is coming to you will not be ordinary. It will be marked by His hand. It will bear His fingerprints. And those who witness it will know that it was God who carried you, God who lifted you, God who answered when no one else could. But I must warn you, sometimes the help of God arrives disguised. It may not look like the breakthrough you expected. It may not come wrapped in comfort or ease. It may arrive through discipline, through correction, through lessons that stretch you beyond your limits. Yet, hidden inside what may feel difficult at first, there is a blessing that will unfold with time. God's help is not always soft, but it is always good. He knows what will build you, what will preserve you, and what will carry you into the future He has prepared. Do not reject what He sends simply because it does not look the way you imagine. Trust His wisdom, for He sees beyond the moment, and He knows what is best. You may be wondering, when will this help come? Let me remind you, God is never late. He may not come when you expect, but He always comes on time. You see, we measure time by clocks and calendars, but God measures it by purpose. When His purpose aligns with your need, when the preparation in your heart meets the timing of His plan, then the help will appear and it will come suddenly, without warning, like the dawn breaking through a long night. One moment you will be struggling, and the next the hand of God will lift you. One moment you will be waiting, and the next the doors will open. That is why you must not grow weary. For in the very hour you feel like giving up, God's help may be closer than ever. And let me speak directly to your heart right now. You who are tired, you who are weary, you who feel like the burden is too heavy to bear. God sees you. God knows the weight you carry. God has counted every tear, heard every whispered prayer, felt every ache of your soul. You are not invisible to Him. You are not forgotten. And because He has seen your faith even when it was trembling, because He has heard your prayers even when they were weak, because He has watched you stand even when you felt like falling, He is sending help. It may not come in the way you expect, but it will come with the exact strength you need. And when it arrives, you will know beyond all doubt that it was God who answered. And so I say to you with all the strength and urgency in my soul, do not let your heart faint. Do not let your faith collapse. Do not let your hope wither away. For the God who has carried generations before you, the God who splits seas and moves mountains, the God who lifts the humble and brings down the proud, is the same God who knows your name, who hears your cry, who feels your pain, and who has already declared your victory. The help that is on its way will not be ordinary. It will be divine. It will be mighty. It will be undeniable. Hold on a little longer, for the night is about to break into morning. Stand firm a little stronger, for the answer is already on its way. God's intervention won't just surprise you. It will leave you in awe. It will lift you higher than your fears. It will refresh your weary heart, and it will silence every whisper that ever said, "It's impossible." The very hands that molded the stars are reaching for you right now. And when those hands move, no power on earth can stand in the way. Step forward with courage. Speak words of faith. Live each day expecting the miracle. For the help of the Almighty is closer than the air you breathe. And when it arrives, let your every breath testify. It was God who made a way. It was God who carried me through. It was God who brought the answer I never dreamed would come, right when I needed it most.